You'll notice that the lights are turned down low, and I will tell you that we are also at an undisclosed location, so don't try to find us. I hope you're enjoying your dinner, maybe a cocktail as well. Know that really in the 20s, those cocktails were outlawed, so take it easy on them tonight. But also, we're here for a purpose tonight. We're here to tell you a little bit more about Impact Services, give you an update about where we've come from in the last year, and then share a little bit about where we're moving in the future as well. But we're really here to support the programming of Impact Services. To start the night, I just want to say some very quick thank yous to our sponsors. I want to thank Connexus Energy, Financial One Credit Union, and Northeast Bank. They are our annual sponsors for all of our events. We appreciate all that those three businesses do for our organization in terms of financial support and volunteers. I want to thank our Dessert First sponsors as well, Iggy Elf, Mary Kay, Michelle Hudak, Edward Jones, the Nate Klauser office, Impact Accounting, and Grayson Hart with Kendra Miles Smith. So thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for making this happen tonight. I also want to say a special thank you to Truffles and Torts. My goodness, they do amazing work, and you can see that we have a cake tonight. We're going to have dessert last, but I hope that you're having some dessert first tonight. And also I want to thank the Courtyards of Andover for making dinner for some of our folks tonight. They're two great partners that we have come to know and love over the last 10 years of Dessert First, and we really look forward to working with them again next year. Next to me is one of our board members, Paula Coffey, and I'm going to let Paula introduce herself.
Thank you. And first I want to say cheers.
Cheers,
Stephen.
yes.
Cheers to a socially distanced Dessert First. 2020 has been off to a strange start, and it continues that way as we end the year as well. But I was happy to be asked to join Steve tonight to discuss Impact Services and hopefully generate some funds for meals and for Voices of Impact and all the great work Steve does in the community. But I'm here representing the board, like he said, and also hopefully able to share some stories as a volunteer, because I am a driver as well. And I want to give a shout out to all the drivers and thank you all for all your time and your commitment during COVID, during the strange time that we had with Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you know, all the changes. We've all been there, all supporting Impact Services. So I'm just really happy to be here tonight. Again, Paula Coffey.
Paula, thanks for being here. I do appreciate you being here. Just to start off with, I just want to remind people that our silent auction is going on. You can find a link for that in the comments on the YouTube live video stream. You can also find that on Facebook. And it's up here on the screen as well. So we've given you lots of opportunities. Make sure you go in, you log in and vote early in, or excuse me, bid early in auction, not vote. That's a bad thing to say right now. So bid early and often. Folks, if you're interested and want to just make a donation, you can do that at the auction site as well, or at our website. So, you know, as Paula and I were talking about, what were we going to talk about tonight? I shared with Paula that, you know, what I like to do is I like to do a little review of, you know, a year ago, we were out at the Courtyards, and we gave you a really exciting update as to what had happened in the previous year. And you know, obviously the biggest highlight from that year was starting the Voices of Impact, our choir for people who were living with dementia and their caregivers. And I told Paula, I said, you know, I get a little nervous because I never know after we give our update what happens, because we really ended Dessert First back in 2018, and then 2 weeks later we started with the Voices of Impact. Last year was no different. We said goodnight back in October at Dessert First at the Courtyards of Andover. And literally the next week, we got a phone call from one of our neighboring Meals on Wheels programs, and they shared with us that they were losing their caterer and their catering contract, wondering if we could help them out. So in the middle of October, you know, our board and their board started having conversations about what does this look like? And putting the caveat on it that they were losing their catering business in the middle of December. So it was a very quick conversation. And Paula, I would say, and you would say the same thing, that you know, our organization from the board down to our staff said, the big thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that people get meals. And we worked tirelessly to make that transition to serving the communities of Coon Rapids and Blaine in 6 weeks.
Yes.
So Paula, do you want to talk a little bit about what that looked like, why the board said we need to do this?
Yep.
And then I'll share maybe some of the specifics about what that looked like.
Okay, I can do that. So when Steve got the call, he immediately informed the board, and in his due diligence and prior to me even joining the board, we always had talked about expansion and what that would look like. So we did have some idea of how, you know, how we would like to grow and what that would look like. But we were not, like Steve said, anticipating such, you know, a quick turnaround. And we were at that time talking about partnering with them. So we sat down with their board, and they have a great board, and their board is made up of volunteer coordinators. And they always had kind of the ideas of where Impact Services was at. So they always thought it would be great to have a choir. It would be great to have a board of people that weren't necessarily the driver coordinators, but people within the community that could bring in businesses and have different ideas, maybe different strengths, financial, through banking, or lawyers, or even just within a business in the community. And so they started really looking at us differently than how, when we first started it, would you say we approached it like how we can bring these two organizations together. And I feel like they were really relieved when they found out that our main concern was to make sure that our neighbors stayed fed. How we were going to do that, and then the details of how that was going to happen, that could come after the fact. But the most important thing was when they lost their kitchen, there wouldn't even be a hiccup, that we would be delivering meals. And they had a great, solid resource of drivers, and that's what has made this transition just solid for us, is they had a great group of people, they had great volunteer coordinators. So that piece, as Sue and everyone else in your organization can say, is always a moving part, because you have people that go away for the winter, or maybe they're teachers and they can do it in the summer. There's so many moving pieces, so having those volunteer drivers is really important. So sitting down with them, I think they felt really confident to say, you know what, we're ready. We're ready to let Steve, as the Executive Director of Impact Services, consider. I think we were all a little surprised, you know, when they approached us with that. And Steve really did, you did phenomenal work, and so did Amy and their board as well. I think I was just there probably telling dad jokes, trying to be helpful, right? So really got this going and got this together, and I think that they really felt confident with where Impact was the vision, was where they wanted to be, and the fact that, you know, we have so much energy and so much dynamics, as everybody knows, and they just brought us the volunteers, and that's what made it successful. And Steve, I was trying to say your name next. I guess I can't say two S's in a row. We'll probably, you want to talk about like the details of all.
Yeah, you know, when we started those conversations, as Paula said, our big thing and our mission is to provide nutritious meals for our neighbors. And you know, we have geographic areas, but our neighbors are the person who lives next door. And you know, when there's a city that doesn't have a Meals on Wheels service, if we're able to fill that void and stand up and say we can help present a good program and good nutritious meals to people, we're going to do that. So I just want to say how much I appreciate our Meals on Wheels staff and how hard they worked in those 6 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Getting routes done, getting menus out to people, getting people entered into our software. I also want to give a shout out to Metro Meals on Wheels. They're a great partner of ours. Metro looked at what we were doing, and we had to bring in almost 150 people into a new database. And Metro Meals on Wheels said, you know what, you guys are busy getting all this other stuff done. We're going to take care of getting all those people in the database for you. So I just want to say thank you to Metro Meals on Wheels, Pat and Mary at Metro Meals specifically, but the rest of the staff for all that they do for Impact Services, but specifically in that situation. You know, the interesting part about making that transition was we started the Monday after Thanksgiving, which was a little crazy. You know, our staff went home on Wednesday after providing, you know, a Thanksgiving meal and weekend meals for the people who were in our original 18 communities, and came back on Monday to a brand new normal.
Yep.
And literally doubling the number of people that we served. We went down to the kitchen at Unity Hospital, or Mercy Hospital, their Unity campus. Again, a great supporter. When we went to them and said what was going on, they were like, these are our neighbors as well, and we want to help feed them. That first day went off as well as we could anticipate. Our volunteer drivers from the Coon Rapids Plain Meals on Wheels program were there. They adapted to some of the changes that they saw we were doing. And you know, the interesting part about it was an exhausting day, I'm not gonna lie. It was a very, very exhausting day. And when we were done for the day, I looked down and noticed that there was the little red dot on the phone. And I said, you know, we better take that message, because, you know, it might be one of our new people and they might not know what's going on. And I'll never forget this message. It was so amazing. It was a woman who was in her mid-80s, and her comment, the first thing she said was, "Oh, what an amazing ride you're going to take us on."
Oh.
These meals are so good. Having the opportunity to pick my own meal means all the world to me. She said, I wanted to lick the plate clean. Folks, that's what our Meals on Wheels program is all about. Providing a nutritious meal for people, giving them good, healthy food that they enjoy. But not only that, the other part of it, Paula, that I think is so important is the volunteers who come and make connection. And I want to get to that in a second, but I want to talk about, so that was in December.
Yeah.
And we had a new normal.
Yeah.
You know, and we really felt like end of January, beginning of February, we were hitting our stride. We're like, you know, we got this licked. And then there was this thing called the coronavirus that came up. And we had to do some real exploration as to how we were going to handle that. Again, working with our great partner, you know, Mercy Hospital's Unity Campus, their nutrition services folks. We sat down with them and said, we need to have a game plan. We put in a 4-tier plan, you know, status quo, moving to serving 3 days a week, down to 2 days a week, and if we really had to, we would do 7 frozens for a week. Because we had no idea, we're a small staff, if any one of us got sick, you know, we would be a hurting unit. And the hospital's kitchen said, we will do whatever you need us to do. And the people that we serve, our neighbors, understood that. Our volunteers, you know, understood that, look, we need to socially distance. We want you to wear masks. The hardest part of that, I think, and you can talk about this as a volunteer, is not having people go into people's homes and not even stand at the door and have a conversation. Really trying to say, we're going to knock on the door, we're either going to step back and let you come get it, or we're just going to go into our car. You know, we got down to serving 2 days a week, but the days that we didn't serve, we had volunteers calling all of our neighbors, making sure that they were okay. Paul, I just want you to talk a little bit about what it means, or what it was like as a volunteer,
Okay.
especially during the first part of, you know, COVID, and things have gotten a little bit more relaxed now. But talk a little bit about that from the volunteer perspective.
Yep. And what I love about our volunteers is that we have great communication amongst ourselves. So, you know, we have campuses that are outreaching from outside of Mercy, where we were doing the initial pickup, and there was always great communication. Sue or whoever the staff was down there would explain, okay, here's the new protocol, this is what we're doing today. But first and foremost, Steve did a Facebook Live, I won't forget this, where he reached out and he said, we need coolers. Because a lot of our clients that get meals, like Steve said, you would bring them into their home or you'd set them on the counter. They had specific instructions that bring them to them, they're sitting in their chair, or, you know, whatever the instructions were. We were always welcomed into their home to bring them their food. And so this was new for us, and it was like, well, we can't just hang these on the door. So then he reached out and asked for coolers, and the outpouring of coolers was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had a cooler partner, Great River Energy.
And the Spring Lake Park Alliance.
And the Spring,
Yep.
they had excess coolers, so we were set,
Yep.
right? We were set, so that was fantastic. So then we had, so the staff was constantly updating, and the nice thing about it was, like, as a volunteer driver, I might have called up somebody like Eric Albertson he was up at Our Saviors and say, hey, Eric, did you get this? Was this message going on? While all this crazy stuff was happening, until we could get a system in place.
Mhm.
I mean, there were so many moving parts, like, okay, we need a piece of paper for the volunteers so they know what's going on, because it was ever changing. It was changing so fast, so rapidly, what we could do, what we couldn't do, how to socially distance. And like Steve said, that's now has changed even some more. But at first, what was really hard is because being a volunteer driver, what I enjoy the most is that personal touch. When my grandma was in the nursing home, she was at St. Teresa's in New Hope, I would go in there and have lunch with her once a week. But what I did is she had a group of lady friends around the table, and I would do head massage and arm massage, because touch is so important, especially when you get older, because you're not around like little kids or family all that much where everybody's hugging and touching each other. And so that becomes really important. So when I would deliver a meal, I would always reach out and touch their arm and just let them know I saw them. How are you? Do you need anything? Is everything all right? But it also gave us a chance to look into their home, because that's where you're going to see if some things are going on that maybe the family needs to be notified of. Or do they have cans of corn open? And is it because they burnt themselves on the stove but they don't want to tell their kids? They're going to tell me, because I'm going to ask the question, like, oh, I see you're eating corn, do you like corn? Well, no, and they tell you the story. So then we can relay that back to Impact Services, who can then tell their kids. So I really felt like we were missing a huge piece, because it was like Steve said, the directions were to knock on the door, to leave the food in the cooler. We were wearing gloves,
hand sanitizer.
mask, hand sanitizer. I mean, just like the whole bit. And you had to let them know that I didn't touch anything. It's in the cooler. You'd knock on the door, and I would wait, because I would want to make sure someone was coming to the door, because something would happen. I mean, that's our biggest concern, is we want to make sure everybody's up and able to get around. And some of these people, that wasn't what they normally did. Like I said, they were sitting, or the food was brought to them. So that was really hard to get used to, but we did feel it was important, because we didn't know at the time, how the pandemic was going to behave. And so, Steve and his staff, you guys kept us updated and informed. The website was updated. And again, it came from communication from other volunteers saying, well, I didn't know this. So then we were able to relay it back to the staff as good to know. And so we just got better at the communication piece. Because, you get wrapped up in the date, getting the meals out, and then, it's like, whew, we got the meals out, but then sometimes, it's like, oh, we forgot, now we're doing it Tuesdays, Thursdays, or whatever that is. So it was always ever changing so fast, but I think you did a great job with getting that out to the volunteers. So I think we're so used to the changing that we just wait. Like, okay, we know something, like, and you watch the news and you kind of see how things are going. But I mean, now I'm seeing, when I deliver meals, I see more people coming to the door. Or I have, a gentleman, his son comes over for lunch. He happens to work in the same city, and he meets the person at the door. So then we know his dad is being seen over the lunch hour. So it makes me feel better about that. So, there are some, they come to the door because they know we're wearing a mask, and they just want to see a face. When I go into some of the apartments, I'll knock and I'll step back, at least 6 feet, and then I'll yell. I don't know if you know, I have a loud voice, and I'll say, Dorothy, Meals on Wheels, if you want to open the door and see a smiling face, and I'm here. And then, it takes them a little bit, and they'll open the door, and I'll move my mask, and I'll give them a big smile, and I ask, are you all right? Do you need somebody to go to Target for you, or Walmart, or pick anything up? And that's how my daughter comes once a week, but it's just having that communication, so then I feel better about just giving them the meal and knowing they're all right. So I always ask those. Steve and I were just talking about that, like the teenagers, how you have to ask specific questions. I ask those specific questions, like, were you able to get up today? Is everything all right? Do you have enough food in the fridge? Do you need, anything? And things like, I'll be happy to go for you. And they can't believe it. You would do that? Nobody's taken me up on the offer yet, but I still ask.
So when you come back late, we'll know
Yeah.
that's the reason why. You know, I will tell you, one of the other things that COVID really exposed to our organization is there's a segment in our population. You know, the reality is about half the people that we serve are on some type of a waiver from the county. And then the other half of the people that we serve are private paying for themselves. It's not the full amount of what the meal costs, but it's a portion of it. But what COVID really showed us was there is this segment in society that makes too much income to qualify for services, but can't afford to pay for the private pay. That breaks my heart, because those people need meals. And again, through great community support, from a lot of foundation work and individuals, really at the Twin Cities level, again through Metro Meals on Wheels, money was raised so that if somebody called us and said, I can't afford to pay these meals, there was money to stand in the gap for those folks, which I'm super proud of, in the fact that I know from March until probably the last week, we've helped about 50 people, whether it was for a week or literally from the beginning of March until today. And this is not going away. We had more than 20 people in the last week call us in need of meals and they can't afford it. So our service is so critical. And today is a beautiful day. I mean, it's 83 degrees in the middle of October. It's super windy, but literally in 2 weeks, we know that the snow can be flying.
Oh, Stephen.
And we know that once it gets cold that people are not going to go out. And it's going to show more people who have that need. And that's what we're here for tonight, is to talk about the need and help fund that need. So folks, I'm just going to ask you, if you feel moved, please, make a donation. Go and find something on the silent auction. Bid over and above what it might be valued at, because we want to help serve our neighbors. We've talked a lot about Meals on Wheels. We've also, we have our choir, our Voices of Impact choir for people who are living with dementia and their caregivers. And we've been at that now for about 2 years. And in the middle of March, our choir had been singing since January. I got a phone call from our choir director, Bruce Phelps, and Bruce said, Steve, I need to know what you want to do with the choir. And both he and I knew. We suspended the choir for 2 weeks. I think we both knew that when we said we're just going to postpone things for 2 weeks, that the reality is that we were going to have to shut the choir down. I'm not going to lie, that was the hardest decision during all of COVID that I had to make. In the sense that we've got 30 or 40 people who come together on Mondays for a couple hours, they sing, they use music to open up memory. It's so powerful for those people living with dementia and their caregivers to be in that situation and have that music open up memory that they can sit and they can talk about for a little while. But not just between the two of them, but the community that they have together. There is such a sense of love for each other. We had one of our choir members pass away during the season last winter. And I was there, and the outpouring of love for the spouse was just amazing to me. And knowing that we were taking that away, that opportunity for them to see each other, was so hard. But just like everybody else, the Voices of Impact's favorite tool today is Zoom.
That's awesome.
They Zoom every Monday. And Bruce has told me that they've only lost 2 people.
That's awesome.
They Zoom, they're getting ready for another choir concert. Obviously it will look a little bit different. But man, they love to get together on Zoom and see each other and sing. and share stories. And I'm really excited to see what's going to happen as they put together a concert for this December. They've done a couple other really cool things this summer. We had one of our choir members who turned 100 years old, and her family put together a drive-by birthday party. And we had somewhere between 8 and 12 of our choir members who, unbeknownst to her, lined up in the car parade and drove by and sang a couple of our songs. And Bruce shared with me, he said, Steve, he said, when we showed up and we started to sing, the family had to restrain her from walking out and starting to sing with us because she missed them so much. So doing something like that, so much fun. And then they had a socially distanced sing-along at one of the local parks, which was just an opportunity for them to get together in the middle of the summer, sing, have some good times and some laughs. But again, Zoom is their best friend. They love it. I know a lot of us are getting a little tired of it, but they love Zoom. So we're just excited that they have that opportunity as a response to what's going on with the coronavirus, to still see each other, even if it's remotely. So, I want to talk a little bit about where we're moving forward to as well. And, it is, I told Paula as we were sitting down and talking a little bit about this, I always get a little bit nervous when Dessert First ends, because it seems like, a couple weeks later something big happens. So I'm kind of braced for that. I'm sure that as my staff is sitting out there watching this, they're like, what are you talking about?
They're midway.
Right? Yeah, and I don't know what that looks like, but I just want to share a little bit about, where we're moving to in the future. And I don't know if you want to start from a board perspective as to what you see as the future, or if you want me to start programmatically, or...
How about you start, and
Okay.
then I'll fill in, and I'll fill in for the board. I think that seems good.
Well, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think the biggest thing, obviously, is meeting the need for Meals on Wheels. We know that as winter hits, we always see our numbers spike and continue to climb through about February, and then, as the winter starts to melt a little bit, our numbers go down a little bit. We haven't seen that this year. Numbers have steadily gone up and up and up every month. And we just want to continue to meet the need for our community. One of the things that we're doing right now through a grant from Anoka County is we have a walk-up opportunity for people to come to Restoration Church. We have free meals for people who maybe don't want somebody coming to their home. They live close enough. And they can just walk up, no questions asked. We give them a meal for that day. We give them a frozen meal for the next day. If it's Friday, we give them meals for the weekend as well. It might be that they have a spouse or, a friend who lives with them. And, if they tell us, I need an extra meal for, my spouse, we're going to give them those meals. So we're excited about that. We're going to be doing that all the way through December. It's just a great opportunity, again, to meet that need. And we know that there are many adults out there who need a meal. As we were talking a little bit about that, we don't know what that looks like. Our spot at 503 Polk Street, where the walk-up is maybe 3 or 4 blocks away from the government center. There's little doubt that there are folks who are at the government center who are low income. But, it might be an attorney who has 4 kids at home, and his wife got, or her husband got laid off. And he's like, this would really help me out. Folks, if you know somebody who needs a meal, but doesn't need somebody coming to their door, please let them know. They can just drive right up. It's between 11 and 12:30. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We would love to help them out with that. Voices of Impact. Our big thing with that is to continue to Zoom, build more awareness for the community. So folks, if you know somebody who is living with dementia, or a caregiver for somebody who's living with dementia, let them know about our choir. We would love to have them get involved with the choir. all I need is their email address. I would get that to Bruce, so that Bruce can invite them. You know, it's on Mondays from 10 o'clock until noon. We would love some new faces. You know, I just think that our organization, while we're still doing the things that we do, looking forward and saying, how do we meet a bigger need? Because we know that the need is going to be bigger. So if you want to talk a little bit about that,
Sure.
maybe from the board perspective as well.
Yep, from the board perspective. So, being on the board, it's a working board. And so when Steve talks about that, the one thing that Steve does really well is he listens, and we've been talking about bridging that gap. I want to kind of circle back to
Yep.
that. I delivered a meal to a woman, and she lived in an apartment building, and when I was bringing it in, it was a secured building. A man walked up, and he wasn't much older than myself, and he said, "Are you with Meals on Wheels?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I used to get Meals on Wheels." And I said, "Oh, why did you stop?" You know, I just, at the time, I guess it didn't even dawn on me why someone would stop getting meals. He said, "Because I couldn't afford it." And I said, "Oh," I said, "but they, you know, there's programs out there, you can get some help." And he said, "Well, I'm at that edge where I make too much, I don't get any help, and I can't afford what it is per day." And that really rang in my head and my heart, and I came to Steve and I said that, and we talked about it, and this was well before COVID. And so then when COVID hit, we were talking about, you know, what this really means. I said, this really is important now for those people that, like Steve said earlier, you know, that they don't qualify, but yet they can't afford that because they have other expenses, medical or whatever that is, or maybe the person that was helping them out, you know, got furloughed. So bridging the gap, and you know, when Steve talks about that, if we can get some additional funds tonight to bridge that gap, that's really important to the board. And it being a working board, what Steve says is the other message we want to get out there is just letting the volunteers we know we appreciate them so much, and they're really what makes this work, because they're the moving part that gets the food from the kitchen to our neighbors. And you know, just being able to, the board is working on how to identify doing some type of volunteer appreciation, but also getting more volunteers in, because we do have a lot of volunteers that are snowbirds, you know, and whether they will or won't go, you know, to Arizona or Florida or wherever they go this year is to be seen. But if they do, there's always that need in the winter for additional drivers, and just to know we're safe, and it's easy to do, it's fun. It's your lunch hour, you know, I take an hour off of work, and I use my lunch hour and I deliver meals, and that sometimes will get me into a further out route. Steve and his staff know I love to do it, and so they'll get me a close-in route that I can do in an hour over my lunch. But volunteers are a focus that the board is going to be working on, and along with that, bridging the gap, and how to identify more of those neighbors in need, like Steve said. So we work on marketing, and we also want, you know, with the fundraising, how do we market so that people know we're here? Because I've had people say, well, I always, you know, knew there was Meals on Wheels, but I didn't know where to go. We've got a great website, Meals on Wheels, impactservicesmn.org. So that's always a great resource. You can sign up to volunteer there. You can sign up for meals there. It's a great resource. Steve and his staff are always a phone call away. But just how do we get that message out there? So we're looking for talent in marketing to help us with that. We've got, you know, like I said, the board, it's a working board. We're constantly looking for how do we reach all those people that need meals but don't know how to do that next step, making it really easy for them. And honestly, if you have been watching Steve and I talk since 7 o'clock, there's probably some interest for you in what Impact
Right.
Services does. And we are always looking for people to give their time and their talent to the board. If you have something that you can give, if this is a passion of yours, please reach out to myself or Amy Weber-Gerard or Steve, and let us know if you're interested, because we look, you know, the board can be as big as we need it to be, and with all the hats, you know, that Steve and his staff have to wear, if we can take some of that off their plate and help them do their job better and grow the organization, that's what the board is here for. So that's my main takeaway is we love our volunteers. We would like to get more meal recipients, and honestly, if you're interested, please, we will tell you all there is to know about being on the board, and we'd love to have you.
Well, I just want to say thank you to a couple more people today. You know, I mean, Paula, you've talked a lot about the volunteers, and the reality for us is that the volunteers for, you know, our programming are the lifeblood of what we do. You know, I mean, every day we have, I want to say it's probably about 40 people who are out covering all of our routes. You know, if you don't know this, Impact Services has the largest geographic area of any Meals on Wheels program in the Twin Cities. So we cover a lot of square mileage. You know, we have some routes that literally, you know, you start in Cedar and you are all the way over on 35W coming down the highway to get back to town. Some of them are hyper-localized where it's 1 or 2 apartment buildings. We have routes for everybody. But I just want to say thank you to our volunteers. You know, this has been a crazy year where we've added a lot of volunteers. For our new volunteers, I just want to say thank you for being adaptable. We know that, you know, you came from something that was different than what we do. We appreciate that you have come and told us how much you like the way that we do things. And I just want to say thanks for sticking with us. We did have some bumps in the road, there's little doubt about that. But thanks for sticking with us. For our volunteers who have been with us for years and years and years, I just want to say thank you again for knowing that it would have been very easy to say, you know what, I'm not going to go out during COVID. And we have volunteers who aren't able to do that because they're high risk, and we totally respect that. But for, you know, the volunteers who were able to stand in the gap and maybe do a little extra, I just want to say thank you. You have no idea what it means, and we hear this from our neighbors all the time, how much they appreciate that somebody is willing to come to their door, knock on their door, make sure that they're okay. Some of our neighbors go way beyond that.
Yeah.
We have neighbors who shovel driveways, who go back out and cut grass, plant, go and chip ice off people's sidewalks. It's absolutely amazing to me that people are that invested in the people that they're going out to see. And again, I just want to say thank you to our volunteers. You're the lifeblood of what we do. We can't do it without you. And like Paula said, if you're hearing, well, this is something that I might be able to do, please give us a call and let us know. We would love to get you involved, volunteering as well. I want to say thank you to a couple of our program partners as well. They're really 4 of our big strategic partners that help us get things done. Number 1, we already talked about Mercy Hospital's Unity Campus. Mercy Hospital has been our Meals on Wheels caterer since the first day that we started delivering meals. So it's going on almost 50 years.
Wow.
Right? They are phenomenal to us. I want to thank Metro Meals on Wheels. They are a great supporting partner of ours as well. Standing in the gap, doing some of the things that we're just not able to do. I want to say thank you to Faith Lutheran Church in Coon Rapids. Faith Lutheran Church has been our site for our choir for the last 2 years. They have given us a space. They've invested in that program, and I just want to say thank you to them as well. I want to say thank you to Restoration Church in Anoka. You know, one of the things that we've tried to do with you know, helping volunteers and socially distance with our staff and our drivers is you know, having drivers drive up and get meals. And Restoration has this beautiful awning and makes it great so that if it rains or anything, nobody's getting wet. They've been a great, phenomenal partner for us. So I just want to say thank you to Restoration Church. I also want to thank QCTV. QCTV helps us host our Answers to Aging show. We haven't really talked much about our family aging education program. You know, it is something that we still do. It just hasn't been something that's been foremost in what we've been able to do this year. But QCTV hosts those Answers to Aging shows for us. Folks, if you have questions about the aging process and questions about how to help maybe your parents or how to engage your kids in some conversation, QCTV has all of our videos, the Answer to Aging videos, in their library on their website. We have quite a few of them on our website as well, so please go there and take a look at those. You know, our program partners help us immensely. I also want to thank our board of directors for being so supportive. This has been a crazy year. And I'm not gonna lie that, I come up with some crazy ideas sometimes. But our board is so supportive of not just me, but all of our staff and what we do. And I just want to thank our board for the direction that they give us as an organization, for their leadership. I want to say thank you to my staff. I don't know if I do this enough, but I'm the one who hears a lot from people about the amazing work that we do. But the reality is my staff is the one who does it. And
Shout out.
right, yeah. So I just want to say thank you to my staff and say how much I appreciate that you guys are there every morning to do what you need to do. They're long days, especially I know that they've been long this year, and I just want to say thank you for hanging with it and doing what we need to do to feed our neighbors. So thank you to all of our staff. And then I want to thank our auction donors tonight as well. We know it's difficult out there for a lot of businesses, but for businesses who were willing to, give a gift certificate or a basket, I just want to thank you for helping raise money that way tonight through the silent auction. So we're coming to the end. The last thing that, I just want to talk about, obviously we're here for a purpose. We would much rather be looking at you at the courtyards,
Eating,
having all the
dessert.
wonderful desserts. But we're here for a purpose tonight, and that's to raise money for Impact Services. And we need your help to do that. So folks, I'm just gonna ask, the reality is that tonight, if you were to come to Dessert First, you would have paid $50 for your meal. It would have been $100 for you as a couple, just to come into the door and enjoy a meal and hear more about Impact Services. So folks, if you have the opportunity and you have the funds to be able to donate that $50 or $100, I would appreciate it if you would do that. You can go to our website, you can go to the silent auction site and make that contribution tonight. If you also look and you say, look, you showed us that there's a great need. I share this all the time. The reality is for every $20 that we raise, we serve somebody a meal for an entire week. So, maybe $100 is out of your reach, but maybe $20 is something that you can do. We would love for you to do that, to make that contribution of $20. Maybe you've been super blessed this year, and you're able to do more than $100. Folks, I would just ask you to do what you're most comfortable with in any contribution that you can make to our organization tonight. I would not be doing my job if I didn't tell you that we have a couple other things coming up.
Okay.
We have our Voices of Impact Choir concert, which will be in December. It will be virtual.
Sounds fantastic.
I'm so super excited to see what this is going to look like.
Yep.
It might be kind of a Brady Bunch type choir thing going on, but I'm really excited to see what they're doing. They've got a great theme this year, and I don't want to spoil it. But folks, watch for information about that, obviously, on our Facebook page, on our website. And then, Paula, I don't even know if you know this or not. But folks, I got a phone call from Texas Roadhouse on Wednesday. And they would like to do a drive-through luncheon for us on Thursday, November 19th. Yeah, write that down, right? Folks, if you've been with us for a while, that this has been something that we've been able to do for numerous years. This year's going to look a little bit different, obviously, because it's going to be a drive-through. We'll have more information about that within the next week, where people can sign up and let us know, that they want to be there, when they're going to drive through, when they're going to, and they can make a payment before the drive-through happens. Again, that's Thursday, November 19th.
Yep. Great
Great thing about that is it's Hunger and Homelessness Week, so it fits really well because obviously hunger is part of what we do.
Yes.
And then the last thing I want to let people know, and I'm letting the cat out of the bag a little bit about this one, but we're really excited. We're doing something a little different this year. I think many of you know that Santa Claus is a good friend of Impact Services. And Santa's a little concerned that kids are not going to be able to go up at the mall and see him. So Impact Services is creating an opportunity for you and your kids to Zoom with Santa and help support impact services in our programs. So folks, it's 7:45. You've got 15 minutes to make your last bids because it shuts off at 8 o'clock. I know Paula is saying, Steve, you need to be quiet, so I'm going to make my bids.
But there's one thing I want to add before.
Sure, absolutely.
So when you do the donation, if your company offers a match, make sure you do that as well. So I know
Yep.
Connexus, who I work for, offers a match, and so your staff is really good about reminding people.
Yep.
But just FYI, so if you can only do 20, just remember your company will bump in 20. That's $40.
Right.
So that's pretty great. So just wanted to throw that in there. So
Appreciate you doing that. So folks, we're wrapping up Dessert First 2020 from the Speakeasy. I want to let you know this. We are so excited about 2021.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're so excited to get back together that we're going to spend the next year making sure that the Speakeasy
Yes.
is a super Speakeasy.
Yes.
So mark a Friday night in October 2021. Be ready. Ladies, start shopping. Find the right outfit.
Uh-huh.
Guys, whatever she wants you to wear, wear it. We're just excited to be together in
Yep.
2021.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sure we'll be at the Courtyards of Andover again. Paula, I'm not going to lie, this cake is sitting
I know.
here.
And the thing is, you promised me dessert first.
Right?
I did really good.
We're-
Anybody who knows me, this is
And
like,
we're going to do dessert last tonight.
yeah.
Folks, I want to say thank you. We're going to cut this cake right
Yep.
now. Thanks
Okay,
again for
thank
being here
you.
tonight.
Join the board. Oh, Steve, that